there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. In a previous video, I have shown you how I turn paper napkins, paper serviettes, into faux glassine paper, and so I wanted to show you what I would do to turn these into cards, to use this for cards. So I do often use this as gift wrap. This makes fantastic mixed media backgrounds and things when you do this. So if you want to see the how version of how I made it, then I will link that video down below, but it is just a couple of videos ago, if not one video before this one was released. But other than that, I want to show you how I would use this in a card. So this is kind of like pretty durable single layer napkin at the moment, and I have just a single sheet of card base. This is not a folded card base, this is just a single piece. Now you have two options from here. One, you could use some acetate sheets, and these are the Hero Arts ones that I use because they are nice and thick, and you could also use some vellum. Now I use the Lawn Fawn vellum. This is 36-pound vellum, so it's relatively heavy, and that is going to help us out with our little card project today. Now of course there's lots of different ways you can do this. I'm just showing you one way. So I cut this piece of vellum down to be 4 1/4 wide by around 6 inches long. Now of course my little card front that I have down there is 5 1/2 inches long, but I want to gently score and leave about 1/2 inch at the top, and this is going to fold over to become my little flap. So you can kind of see just what it looks like from the side there. I have that little top bit folded over, but other than that it is just the normal size of a card front. So this is obviously to make a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card, and if you want to make it any different size, then it's really easy because obviously the sheet that we start off with here is pretty big. So this is where you just need to decide which part of the serviette or the napkin that you would like to use. Now often I can just kind of move my piece of paper around and kind of see what I want to capture, which butterflies in this case or which flowers, and I really like this bottom left hand corner, but sometimes just to give me a better view I pop the piece of paper underneath the napkin, and that way I'm going to get a much better view. Now this is much sturdier than if I were to just use the napkin by itself. The process that it goes through with the glue and everything means that it's more like a waxed paper or perhaps a sheet of vellum. That's kind of what it feels like. So it's not as delicate as a piece of a normal serviette or napkin. So once I think I've got it, I roughly cut it out with my scissors. I'm going to cut just a little bit bigger than what I think I need, and remembering that at this point I want to make sure this has enough room that I'm going to create a flap up the top that we will fold around the back. Now because of the things that we've done to the serviette, it means that it's really easy to cut this with a normal trimmer. You won't have any trouble with that, and I just kind of go back and forth, cutting off little bits and pieces from both sides, and that way I can make sure I'm still capturing the images that I want to capture in my card front. So if I had a really kind of clear image and I was trying at this point to keep as much of the flowers and as much of that blue butterfly whilst being able to cut it down to the size I needed. So that was what I was trying to do, trimming it down. Then I'm going to add double-sided tape to both sides of that little flap that we folded over. So this is kind of the, I have it kind of folded out at the moment, so that's why it looks like I just turned it over. But once I fold this little flap down, it will be just vellum on the front. You'll kind of see in a minute how that works. And then at this little flap at the top, I'm going to pull off one side, and this is going to be the kind of front of the card front. I line up the bottom of my glassine paper, and I'm going to kind of get it exactly in place before I let the rest of it kind of move to the top, and that is going to hit the double-sided tape, and everything should measure up pretty well because it's all measuring the same at this point. So at the moment all we have is the vellum and the faux glassine that has been stuck together with that little flap at the top. Then I'm going to take off the next little flap, and this is on the underside kind of thing. So I line everything up with my card front, and then I can push that little flap over top, and that is going to be adhered down to my card base, so to speak. So at the moment we kind of have these two layers that are going to pull up, and then that will be our card in the middle. So with the vellum and the serviette or napkin, that means that pretty much anything you write in the card is going to be kept hidden. You're not going to be able to see it at all, which is something that I like for these. Now, if it bothers you that that little flap is on the back, or if your cardstock is a little bit lightweight and you want to make it a little bit more sturdy, then I suggest adding another piece of cardstock to the back here. That's what I'm going to do because I just want to hide that little flap of the napkin up the very top. So I just put down another layer of double-sided tape, and then I have my little piece here ready to go, which I can line up, press into place, and everything is going to line up perfectly. So now we have a really sturdy card base, and we are just going to kind of finish off all the finishing details for the front. Now these are of course optional. You can go anywhere from here with your card base. So this is the Elliptical ovals by Spellbinders. I love these ovals. I love for layering them. They are the perfect thing that you can kind of layer on front of a card for a sentiment. I have the Botanical Borders with Sentiments stamp set, and from that one I'm going to be using the Thinking of You stamp. This is going to be a little bit of a sympathy card which I need to send out, and for this I'm just going to stamp this in some VersaFine Onyx black ink. This is a beautiful crisp stamping pigment ink. I lined everything up, but I couldn't quite get the stamps close enough together for what I wanted. So I'm just going to do one at a time because there's just sometimes a little border around the actual words with the photopolymer. So if I do it one at a time, that means I can get them a little bit closer together. Now, if you're like me and I'd already cut out the die cut and I just need to keep the die cut a little bit more steady with my kind of other hand, so I just use some removable adhesive, pop it on the back there and pop it onto a bigger piece of paper. It just so happened that I had that black piece that was sitting beside me, so I just popped it on there, and then as I said, it's just removable adhesive, so you just rub your finger over it and it's all gone. So for this one, I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and I'm going to pop this flat down onto my vellum layer, which I cut one of the slightly bigger ovals, the one bigger than this, and pop that down. Just as I said, it makes a really simple sentiment stand out when you add those other layers. So once I've done that, then I'm going to pop some more double-sided tape on the back of that. I didn't want any dimension on the front here. I'm just going with pretty flat. And then once I have everything kind of where it should be, I'm going to pop this pretty much in the middle. Now the next step that I'm going to do is also going to give our card a lot of stability. However, it does stand by itself at the moment, so if you want to stop here, you most definitely can. I'm going to take two of my Hero Arts Infinity die set. This is a stacking rectangle die set, and that just means that there are lots of the same shape that are close together, and you are able to make frames. You are able to cut out all of these shapes really easily, and I'm going to take two of the frames that are right by each other, so it's going to make a very thin little frame. I pop a little bit of mint tape, some low tack tape in two of the corners, and I have this cutting dies side up, cutting blade side up, and I'm just going to make sure that I have them nice and even around the edges, and then I will die cut it. Because this is going straight down onto the project, I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided adhesive here. I just pull away one tiny corner, then line up the other three corners, and then I pull away the release paper, and that way it's all lined up as well, because I do have some of my double-sided adhesive sheets cut down to be 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, just because it makes life a little bit easier. Then I run it through my Big Shot machine, and I have this gorgeous frame ready to go. I do the same trick to line this up because the frame is delicate. I just pull away one little corner of it. I line up the other three corners, and then once they are all lined up, I will press down on that exposed corner, and then I will pull away the rest of the adhesive. Now the reason that I add the frame here is for a couple of reasons. One can be stability for the front of the card, but two is so that we bring in a little bit of that white that we have used for the sentiment in the middle, and I think that brings the card nicely all together. So you can see it stands up perfectly fine. Someone can display the card if they want to. It's also showing that gorgeous faux glassine paper that we created, and you can write your message in the middle without anybody seeing it from the front, so it is the perfect card. Let me know what you think of this creation down in the comment section down below. I also have a list of products used in the description section below this video. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your support, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!